Happy New Year, and welcome to the first 4Ps of 2019. This one, episode 56, coming on the last day of our family vacation from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Now, looking around, it's hard to understand why you wouldn't want to live here, at least most of the year. It's great weather, restaurants, golf, heated pools are always nice, an improving cultural scene, and reasonable real estate prices, and big companies are opening offices down here. I can't think of one reason not to move down here. Oh wait, I remember now. Terrible drivers. God, you think New York and Boston or even LA and Atlanta and their drivers are bad, but well, there is definitely a large elderly population down here, which I'm trying to be more patient of. I can't blame it all on them. Now, we all know that Florida has its share of challenges in terms of the people that live here, but it's truly most apparent once you get behind the wheel. It's just not even a question. You'd think that there's some contest to see who can drive the longest while in between two lanes on a two-lane highway, or wait 10 to 15 seconds at a stop sign just to make sure there's no oncoming traffic. I can't tell you how many people turn right or left from non-turning lanes or drive 40 miles an hour in the left lane of a major interstate. As you might have surmised, I typically struggle to relax while on vacation. I don't sleep any more or longer than usual. I find myself missing our dog. My mind, it's just hard to shut off, and I know a lot of you also share that challenge. It's not like the world stops when we're on vacation. But one thing that does happen, I get to read actual books at a significantly accelerated, uninterrupted pace for long stretches of time. Now, over the past 10 to 12 days or so, I've read about 6 books. I'm almost finished with the last book. And while I'd love to be able to pontificate on common themes or lessons, leave me alone, I'm still on vacation. Book 1 was The Sympathizer, which won the Pulitzer Prize in 2015, a novel by Vietnamese-American professor Viet Thanh Nguyen, which is incredible. Number 2 was Blitzscaling, nonfiction, by Reid Hoffman and Chris Teh, which is how startups can very quickly accelerate their growth and all the things they need to do to be successful. Number 3 was The Storytelling Animal by Jonathan Gottschall, which is basically about humanity and how we are different than all other animals in the fact that we need and can create stories to entertain, amuse, learn, share, etc. Number 4 was The Courage to be Disliked, a Japanese book by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, which is really just about getting outside your comfort zone, especially for me, and realizing that sometimes the hardest decisions aren't always the most popular. Book 5 was Atomic Habits by James Clear, just one of those books that is important to read and reread to help you learn how to develop good habits. And the 6th book, with which I am almost finished, is another nonfiction book, a historical book called The Black Count, about Alexander Dumas Sr., the father of the author of Three Musketeers and Count of Monte Cristo. Also won the Pulitzer Prize further back for historical nonfiction. Now that 2019 is here, an important year for politics, there are so many questions that may begin to be answered, starting with the Mueller investigation and congressional investigations of the president, and what the early stages of the Democratic primary season and whole scene will look like. After 2016, all predictions and polls are pretty much useless, but the first DNC debate is going to take place in June, and the field is very likely to be crowded. And while I'm excited to see a diverse field with women and people of color, even younger candidates, I'd also like to see the return of someone who's been on the scene, at least historically, but hasn't really been heard from in a while. Al Gore. Now, with climate change becoming an increasingly critical issue, an Al Gore campaign, even if he can't win, would be great for putting a focus on just the dire and increasingly complex challenges around climate change. And at the very least, aren't you curious what Trump's immature, inappropriate, offensive nickname for Clinton's former VP will be? Early 2019 will also mark the time when I make the transition back from project-based consultant to full-time employed professional. And it's going to provide me with some interesting opportunities to think about and apply and then talk about a lot of what I've already shared here in the first 50 plus episodes of the 4Ps, but also I'm going to be experiencing new things and things I haven't experienced in the last 10 years, and then provide some content and contextually relevant points. There's a lot to absorb and learn anytime you start a new job, but also important decisions that will set the tone for your tenure at a company, like what to wear on the first day of a job. Do you want to go with a Mac or a PC? Or whether to go by Matt or Matthew for all the people I meet? I know, tough call. I never really put much thought into New Year's resolutions in previous years. I typically have used the holiday downtime to look back and reflect on lessons learned or mistakes I made from the previous year instead of looking ahead. But this year I decided to change that, as my 19 resolutions for 2019 posted to Twitter on New Year's Eve were flex. Naturally, some were sarcastic or attempts at creative humor, but I do know that having goals and milestones for achieving those goals is important, not just personally, but professionally. And it has been beat into my head that if you write down your goals, you're more likely to achieve them. Thank you, Eric Bacolis. But if you mention your goals or resolutions on video, well, you're basically guaranteed to succeed. Some are lofty, like disconnecting digitally, or being more present with my kids when I'm with them. Others are more attainable, like quit smoking, which, considering I've never started smoking, seems like an easy win. You need a few of those. So if you haven't seen them yet, check out my recent Twitter thread at MWorst and hold me accountable all year long. Someone needs to.